Hi there, Michael here. In today's video, we're going to have a look at the latest update of Seaplane's Elastic Pitch plugin. In this new version, Seaplane have added immersive audio support to that plugin, and we're going to check out how well that actually works. So this is not going to be a full review. In particular, I'm not going to comment much on the quality of the pitch shifting algorithm, since this isn't really my main expertise. I'm really mostly interested in its multi-channel capabilities. Now, this is probably going to be a rather short video, but I'm releasing this on Black Friday, so my feeling is that most people are currently hitting the stores and not really watching YouTube anyway. But enough said, let's open up Reaper. Now I'm going to work with Reaper today, and I'm going to work on a Mac, but everything that I'm going to show you works on Windows as well, and it should also work on pretty much any digital audio workstation. Obviously, in order to take advantage of the multi-channel capabilities, you need a digital audio workstation that has multi-channel capabilities. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to take a track and I'm going to convert that into third order ambisonics, and I'm going to apply the pitch shifting in the ambisonics domain and then convert everything back to stereo. Now, this doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. It's primarily for demonstration purposes, but you might wonder what actually happens if you do pitch shifting in the ambisonics domain. Well, let's find out. And if you have some idea what's actually going to happen, leave a comment in the comment section. I'd like to know if you guys are really knowledgeable about ambisonics and can figure out what actually is going to happen if I do pitch shifting in the ambisonics domain. The track that I'm going to use today has been generated with artificial intelligence, and if you've been following my channel, you know that I like to use this track simply because the copyright is pretty much obvious, or not obvious, depending on how you look at it. But what I mean is that you cannot really claim copyright on that, so nobody can really claim or make a copyright claim on that video if I use an AI-generated track. At least that is the theory. Let's just have a brief listen what we have here. And by the way, before I continue, it's really easy to identify an AI-generated track if you know what you're listening for. I see a lot of people talk about how you can identify AI-generated tracks, and most of the people that kind of are talking about it are completely wrong. Not quite sure why. So one of the videos that I recently saw is somebody mentioning that an AI-generated track usually doesn't have unusual instruments, but as we can hear, this is not the case. So if you want me to make a video about how to identify an AI-generated track by ear, let me know. I can do that. It's actually really easy, but you need to know what you're listening for. But this is not, once again, the purpose of this video. Let's just continue listening to the track a little, and then let's kind of do some pitch shifting in the ambisonics domain. So let's kind of listen again. So let's stop for now. We're going to hear a little bit more a little bit later on. So the first thing I need to do in order to make use of ambisonics and pitch shifting in the ambisonics domain, I need to turn that track into a 16-channel track. So let's just kind of turn it over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change that to 16 channels. And then I'm going to take that audio and I'm going to convert that into third order ambisonics, and I'm going to convert that back. Now, there are different ways in how you can do that. I personally like the plugins from Audio Brewers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Audio Brewers encoder. Going to add that here. This is going to convert that track into third order ambisonics. It automatically understood that this is third order ambisonics because it sees that it's sitting on a 16-channel track. And then I'm going to decode that back into stereo. So let me load up the higher order ambisonics decoder from Audio Brewers. And kind of it tries to get the best multi-channel layout, but I actually want to have that back to stereo. So let's just kind of set that back to stereo. And let's just play that track again. Let's maybe start a little bit later in the track. And let's press play. Now what I want to do is really I want to demonstrate that it works, or the Elastic Pitch plugin works on all 16 channels. Now because this is right front center with the left and right channel, not all the Ambisonics channels are actually active. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply kind of change that a little and move that just a little bit. So it's now a little bit to the right, but that's fine. All we really need is a signal on all 16 channels. So let's add the Seaplane Elastic Pitch plugin in the Ambisonics domain. So let me just close the decoder and the encoder, and let's add the Elastic Pitch. Let's search for that. Here we have Elastic Pitch version 2. Now obviously what we need to do is we need to put that into the Ambisonics domain. So we need to put that here between the encoder and the decoder. And it means that it is now operating on all 16 channels. Now, I'm not going to talk too much about the plugin itself because it's, first of all, it's actually relatively straightforward, and then not really kind of that much of an expert in pitch shifting, so I should probably be a little bit careful what I talk about pitch shifting. We just want to kind of figure out what the plugin is doing. Now, if you are not familiar with Elastic Pitch, you essentially have two possibilities here. You can change the pitch, which is up and down, and you can change the timbre, which is the formant really, which is left, right. You have some possibility here to add a delay, which is actually quite interesting. You can play with that. It sort of changes the pitch as each delay comes in, which is really interesting. And then you have a little bit of a possibility to adjust the voicing in order to create a better formant impression. But that's really everything there is to it. We're just going to play around with it and see how that actually works in 16 channels. And if you are thinking about or wondering what actually happens if you do a pitch shifting in the Ambisonics domain, we will figure that out in a second. So let's just play the audio and then let's play around with that. And surprise, surprise, it's just pitch shifting. So if you're pitch shifting in the Ambisonics domain, it is really just pitch shifting. So let's disconnect formant and pitch. Yeah, that sounds weird. We can add a delay if you want, but that's going to be really, really weird here. Yeah, that doesn't really sound good. Let's turn it off again. So that works really, really nice, and kind of no problem at all. So it works on all 16 channels. Now, one thing that annoys me a little is that I'm not really, when I started testing that, I wasn't quite sure if it actually does work on all 16 channels. And this is also the reason why I used this particular example, because you would immediately recognize if one of the Ambisonics channel is not pitch shifted correctly, because it would sound off. So it actually is doing that, but from the plugin itself, you actually don't see that. The only reason you know that Elastic Pitch is working on 16 channels is in Reaper, because you here have the input-output, and you can see that sort of 16 input channels, 16 output channels, so it's in multi-mono mode, and each channel is pitch shifted. But if you are working with a digital audio workstation where you don't see the routing that immediately, then it's a little unclear if it's actually working on all the channels that you want it to work. So it would be really nice if maybe in an update, Seaplane could add a meter that kind of shows you how many channels the plugin is actually working on. But other than that, this works really, really well. And most of you probably already have Elastic Pitch because it's a very, very popular pitch shifting plugin. So this update is really, really cool, and it opens up pitch shifting to all kinds of applications. So once again, this was just an example. You would probably not use it that way. If you would, by the way, if you would want to pitch shift in the Ambisonics domain, you would probably use the pitch shifting plugin from Audio Brewers, which has a couple of additional possibilities, and not necessarily a multi-mono pitch shifting plugin. But you could, and you can also use that in multi-channel mode, so you can use that on an Atmos bed or anything that you like, anything in surround, and it works it just works. So this is really cool. A very, very nice update from Seaplane about Elastic Pitch. So what's my final verdict? Well, I think Seaplane's decision to add multi-channel support to Elastic Pitch is greatly appreciated, since it opens up the plugin to anybody working with immersive audio, may it be with Ambisonics or regular multi-channel audio. The plugin works in multi-mono mode, so from the immersive audio perspective, there isn't really much to say about the overall pitch shifting quality. If you like what the plugin does in stereo, you will also like it in immersive audio. The only thing that I'm missing somewhat is a better indication about the multi-channel mode in the user interface. When I tested the plugin, I constantly found myself wondering if the plugin does indeed work on all channels. I think that the addition of a multi-channel meter in the user interface would really ease that uncertainty. But otherwise, this is a solid update that I can only recommend. Well, that's everything for today. If you have any questions or comments, drop them in the comment section below or join our free Discord server. The invite link is in the description. And don't forget to subscribe to stay updated on all things Dolby Atmos and immersive audio. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.